Material that's carried along with a stream is called stream load, and there's actually 3 different types, and so we're going to talk about them and what differentiates them. So this is my water that's moving in my stream from left to right. This represents the stream floor, so this is what we would call the stream bed. And so the first type we're going to talk about is bed load, because I think it's kind of just the easiest to understand. And so I'm going to take some larger particles here. And these particles are going to get carried with the water, sort of, in the way that they're going to bounce or roll along. And so when those bounce or roll, kind of topple along, we call that our bed load, because it remains mostly in contact with that stream bed. If we move up in our water column a bit, we have these particles here that get carried along with the water, and we can see them. Like if you were to cup your hand down into a stream, pull it up, you might have some sand or something pooled in your hand because it was being carried along. You didn't have to scoop at the bottom. It would just be in that water column. And we call this suspended load because it is suspended with the water and moves along with it. Finally, the one that's a little more tricky kind of understand is something called dissolved load. And these are actually something you can't see. They are just ions in solution. So let's say some sodium, some chlorines that eventually could come together and form salt, right? But in this case, they're just dissolved. And so these, they get carried along with the water because they're actually part of that water, like salt water. And this is called dissolved load. All right, so let's talk about how I drew the sizes of suspended load and bed load. So you'll notice that I drew the bed load larger than the suspended load. And this would make sense because we can assume that this stream is flowing at a certain rate, certain velocity. So it's flowing fast enough to pick up the grains that are this size, whatever the size that might be. Maybe that sand size, like really fine sand. And our bed load's gonna be bigger than that. It's too big to be suspended load. But now let's say that our stream really slows down. This suspended load might, some of it at least, might drop out and become bed load. So you have the existing bed load plus some of this sand size stuff because the stream is so slow that it dropped a lot of its suspended load. Conversely, we could say the stream all of a sudden flows really, really fast. And if it does that, it might pick up some of this bigger bed load, like very coarse sand or really fine gravels might get moved along and become suspended load. So the size of suspended and bed load are not fixed. It depends on the velocity. The faster the velocity, the bigger the suspended load and the bigger the bed load, right? Because then some really big bowling ball sized or even larger gravels could get moved along with the water if it was moving really fast. And then if the water slows down, then the grain sizes for suspended load and bed load both drop as well.